Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you've been following global finance, well, you definitely know the name Wirecard.
Oh, absolutely.
It was meant to be Germany's shining star, right? Their answer to PayPal, this huge tech success story.
Yeah.
And instead, it just became one of the biggest corporate scandals in, well, recent history, all defined by that massive 1.9 billion euro black hole.
Right.
Today we're diving into the legal fallout, which is, it's unprecedented, specifically the criminal trial against the former CEO, Markus Braun, which is now dragging into its fourth year.
And it's so important that we unpack this now because the sheer complexity of the case combined with the extreme duration of this whole process is becoming a story in and of itself. For anyone listening, it's just so easy to get lost in the details. You know, Wirecard was a DAX-listed giant, but what we found out was, well, it was systematic years-long balance sheet falsification.
Designed to do one thing.
Exactly, to grossly deceive investors and just paint this beautiful but entirely fictional picture of the company's finances.
So our mission today is to try and cut through some of that complexity. We're going to analyze the core fraud. We'll look at the dynamic role of the star witness. And crucially, we have to address this constitutional question that's just hanging over the trial.
Yeah.
Why has this taken so long? And what does the unprecedented detention of Markus Braun really say about the efficiency of financial criminal law?
Well, to set the stage, let's just nail down the core deception. So summer of 2020, Wirecard is finally forced to admit it.
I bet the money's gone.
That 1.9 billion euros were missing. The result of what the sources call fictitious bookings or Luftbuchungen.
Right.
The company claimed this massive sum was safe, held in escrow accounts by third-party partner businesses, the TPAs out in Asia.
They were mentioning places like Dubai, Singapore.
They even supposedly had banking partners in the Philippines. But the devastating truth, the thing that triggered the insolvency in all of this, was that the money, it just didn't exist.
It was air?
It was just air.
Okay, so let's unpack who exactly is facing the music for this. At the regional court in Munich, we have 3 men on the defendant's bench.
That's right. First, you have Markus Braun, the former CEO. Very recognizable face.
Of course.
Second is Stefan von Erfa. He was the chief accountant, so he was overseeing those all-important financial statements.
And the third?
And third, and this is where it gets really interesting, is Oliver Bellenhaus. He was the head of the Dubai operations, so he was supervising a lot of that fictitious Asian business where the fraud was really happening.
And the charges they're facing are, they're staggeringly serious.
Oh, they are?
The main charge for all 3 is commercial gang fraud. You combine that with balance sheet falsification, breach of trust. The potential sentences are huge.
For Braun, if you look at the highest penalty case, we could be talking about a maximum of up to 15 years.
Wow.
But what's really fascinating here is the dynamic that Oliver Bellenhaus creates.
The star witness.
The crown witness, exactly. Early on, he cooperated extensively with the Munich investigators. He gave them what they see as just crucial insights into the whole system.
So even though he's a co-defendant?
Right. Even though he's a co-defendant, he's basically been elevated to the prosecution's key witness. His early testimony is just instrumental in helping the court understand the mechanics of the fraud.
So the very person who helped run this scheme is now the prosecution's strongest tool. It's a dynamic that just it really underscores the complexity of this whole thing.
It does.
But complexity isn't the only reason this trial is dragging on. After nearly 4 years, where are we in the actual court process?
We are still, believe it or not, firmly in the evidence collection phase.
Still,
we've heard from countless former employees, board members, business partners, and a lot of them are abroad, which just complicates the logistics.
Right.
By current estimates, we're probably nearing the final third of this phase, but there's still really complex financial reports that are pending. They haven't even been presented yet.
And this brings us right to the core tension of the trial, which is Markus Braun's defense. He has this central thesis, which his lawyers have pushed from day one.
Yes, that the TPA business was real.
That it was real, and that he was the victim of some kind of massive internal scheme, like a raid or a robbery from within.
That is his position. He argues he was lied to, that the money was real, but it was siphoned off without his knowledge.
But how is that holding up in court?
Well, if you look at the evidence that's been presented so far, and especially the testimony from Bellenhaus, that defense thesis just doesn't seem to be supported.
No.
The sources suggest the weight of the evidence, the testimony, the documented financial flows. It all overwhelmingly points to a coordinated effort to fabricate these numbers, not some kind of unexpected robbery.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, a bit alarming from a rule of law perspective.
The detention.
The duration of Markus Braun's pre-trial detention. The trial has run for 4 years, but he has already spent 5.5 years incarcerated, awaiting a verdict.
Yeah.
When detention goes on for half a decade without a final conviction, you have to start asking, are there genuine rule of law concerns here?
It raises a profoundly important question about the proportionality of the legal system. I mean, in Germany, pretrial detention is based on very clear grounds. Flight risk or the risk of obstructing justice.
And these have to be reviewed regularly.
Constantly reviewed by the courts. Braun was arrested quickly. He had that very brief release, maybe a month in summer 2020. And then his detention was reinstated, and it has just continued ever since. He's held in a special, highly secured wing at Munich Stadelheim.
And his lawyers have tried repeatedly to challenge this, right? Arguing that after 4 years of evidence collection, the risk of him obstructing justice must be lower now. So why does the court keep rejecting these appeals?
The court has maintained that both flight risk and obstruction risk are still high.
Why?
They cite the sheer scale of the alleged fraud, but also, critically, the fact that his alleged co-conspirator, Jan Marsalek, is still a fugitive. The fear in the legal system is that if Braun, with his immense resources, were released, he might just vanish, just like Marsalek did.
And this stark contrast between Braun and his co-defendants really highlights this. I mean, Oliver Billenhaus, the Crown witness, he was released from detention about 1.5 years ago.
Under strict conditions, but yes, he's out.
And Stefan von Arfa, the chief accountant, he's also free. Braun is the only one left in detention.
And that contrast is exactly what fuels the criticism. The length of his detention is just. It's completely unprecedented in German white-collar crime.
I saw a comparison that was just shocking.
He won from his brother-in-law, yeah. He pointed out that in the entire history of the Federal Republic of Germany, only one person has spent longer in pretrial detention.
Beatrice,
the central figure in the NSU terrorist proceedings.
Wow. To compare a complex financial case to the longest detention in modern German history for a major terrorism case, it just highlights the extreme difficulty the judiciary is facing here.
It speaks directly to the principle of proportionality. In a normal German economic case, especially when the evidence is almost all collected, detention is usually far shorter.
Yeah.
When you think about the maximum sentence, maybe 15 years, and then you weigh that against 5.5 years already served, time that will be credited, of course, it puts immense pressure on the court to justify keeping him locked up. And the longer the trial goes, the more acute that legal problem becomes.
That sets the perfect stage for our next point, the missing man.
Jan Marsalek,
the former chief operating officer. The main reason the court cites ongoing flight risk is because Marsalek proved just how easy it is to vanish. What do we actually know about his escape back in 2020?
We can trace it with relative clarity now. He fled from a small regional airport, flew first toward Minsk in Belarus, and then onward to Moscow.
Right, there was that whole story for a while that he was in the Philippines trying to resolve the accounts.
A complete red herring that was quickly debunked.
And more recent investigative reporting, I think from Der Spiegel, has provided pretty concrete evidence of where he is now.
Yes, reportedly using mobile phone data that pinpointed him right in the Moscow city center.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's the consensus? Is he ever coming back?
The consensus among legal and intelligence experts is grim. It's highly, highly unlikely that Jan Marsalek will ever be brought before a German court, or any court outside of Russia.
So he's basically untouchable.
He may move around occasionally, but for the prosecution's purposes, he is entirely beyond their reach, which ironically just continues to bolster the argument that his alleged co-conspirator Braun remains a flight risk.
So the legal timeline in Munich is, well, it's operating at a glacial pace.
To put it mildly.
Maybe we can get a clearer picture if we look at a parallel case. Let's shift gears and look at the speed differential in the case of the Austrian investor René Benko. His legal troubles also involve alleged billion-euro damages, multiple insolvencies. I think it's 2.36 billion in Austrian proceedings alone. Is the Benko case a kind of countermodel to Wirecard, a way of showing how justice can move quickly?
It certainly highlights two totally different legal philosophies at work. The Austrian Economic Prosecutor's Office has shown striking speed. Benko was arrested quickly, much like Braun was.
But
look at the trial process. In Innsbruck, the first trial against Benko was over in October 2025. after only 2 days of negotiations.
2 days.
Yeah.
Compared to 4 years and counting for Wirecard, with maybe another 2 or 3 to go before it's all resolved.
Exactly.
What did the Austrians focus on to get that kind of speed?
Their justice system focused strategically on extracting smaller, clearer, factual issues. Little pieces they could prove quickly.
Like what?
In that specific trial, the charge was harming creditors, which is similar to intentional bankruptcy. But the focus was narrowly on a €300,000 donation he made to his mother.
And they got a verdict on that.
A rapid verdict. A 2-year sentence, partially conditional, while they acquitted him on other counts in that specific matter.
That is the clear strategic difference, isn't it? The German court in the Wirecard case is trying to prove the entire massive, multi-year conspiracy all at once.
All of it. All the billions in fictitious assets.
Whereas the Austrian approach seems to be about getting quick, legally sound convictions on smaller, verifiable parts of the bigger scandal.
Exactly. The focus is on efficacy and timeliness, and you contrast that with the Wirecard projection. The earliest we might see a first instance verdict is Q1 2026.
And that's not the end.
Not even close. Then you have to factor in the appeal to the Federal Court of Justice. That takes, another year and a half approximately. And Braun is expected to remain in detention that entire time. The Austrian system prioritized a speedy resolution, while the German process operates on a totally different multi-year timeline defined by maximum complexity.
So what does all this mean for you, the person just trying to stay informed about one of Europe's defining financial crises? On one hand, you have this high-stakes, historically significant fraud case, defined not just by the €1.9 billion loss, but by this unprecedented legal duration and the detention of its CEO.
And the sources really raise a crucial legal question. Is the German system, by focusing on this one massive, sweeping conspiracy, actually sacrificing timely justice, sacrificing individual proportionality? The contrast with Austria's strategy shines a really harsh light on the efficiency of German financial criminal law when it deals with these huge white-collar crimes.
That's a powerful point to end on, and it leads to a final thought for you to consider as you process this deep dive. Given that Markus Braun has already spent over 5 years in detention, and a final legally binding judgment isn't expected until 2027, maybe even later, will the final resolution in the Wirecard case arrive so late that it ultimately diminishes the perceived effectiveness or timeliness of justice itself? And will that fundamentally change how we view the consequences for one of Germany's biggest ever economic scandals?